I'm a reviewer. Let the reviews be joined. Hello once again, all you out there. It's your friend Dinobot here for another video review. And on this one, we're going to look at the G1 Classics Pretender Starscream. I do want to apologize right off the bat off of this guy. In a previous video, I commented I was going to do a before and after repo labeled with this guy. But I labeled him and I didn't realize I'd done it until afterwards. I hadn't already done the first video for it, so I do apologize for that. But you're going to see just a full look at this guy on this video. But let's get right into it. As you can see, he's a normal Classics G1 Pretender shell, or inside of a Pretender shell, which is modeled after, like the Autobot Pretenders, basically a giant humanoid with battle armor on. Kind of chubby looking because you have to think of how they gotta look, you gotta be able to stick the robot and stuff in there. Size wise, I would say this is just a shade bit bigger than the deluxe class, which on that note, I'm going to bring in a couple of them here for a size comparison. I'm going to bring in the Generations. Oh, sorry about that. He doesn't want to, there you go. Generations Armada Starscream. And we'll also bring in the first edition Starscream from Prime. You can see the shell itself is a little bit bigger than both of these guys. I mean, it's not a huge, great big difference like with the Prime Starscream, but still, it's not too bad a different size. It's still basically, in a way, it's basically a deluxe size shell. But let's move these guys out of the way. And we'll look at this guy outright. One thing to note on the shell is, like I said, it's chubby, very chubby. It has no articulation other than here in the shoulder. That's all the arms do. The head can't move. It's got no knee bend. Like I said, it's a shell. That's all it is. It's basically that. It does have this one gun that the shell, basically the shell will use, and it has, unlike the original Pretenders, who had basically a belt that would snap like basically right here at the waist to help hold the shell together as well. This one, the Classics, had a helmet in some form. This was the only Classics Decepticon Pretender, where you had the Autobots had Grimlock, they had Jazz, and they had Bumblebee. The Decepticons only had Starscream. To my knowledge, this was never really introduced in the cartoon, at least not in the American G1 release. He was introduced in the comics, which was a very good story arc in the comics. It's one of the better arcs in my book because it deals with Ratchet and Megatron. I don't want to spoil too much on that because you'll have to read the comics on that, but it's basically, if I can remember the issue number wise, it's like 50, I want to say 56 up to 59, maybe 55 to 59, something like that. It's like a good 4 or 5 issue arc, but it's a very good story arc to it. Again, like I said, the repro labels was used on this guy. This is the actual sheet. It was like $4, maybe $5 for this sheet. As you can see, it had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 labels to it. I only used 9 because the 10th one was already on the figure, and I'll show you about it here in a moment. The shell only has 3 labels on it. It has the one here up on his chest, and it has the Decepticon logo. Other than that, that's it. On the back of the shell, as you can see, you have the basically Starscream wings is where they are kept. The sad thing about this is, well, I'll show it off here in a minute when we look at the actual figure, is he doesn't have any other weapon storage for his other 2 weapons, and we'll look at those in just a moment. But to get into that, let's go ahead and pull them out. To do so, I'm just going to go ahead and pull these wings off and set them aside. And all you got to do is pull the helmet off, which, on the sad note, this is kind of the one bad thing about the helmet. If you can see here, the smudges basically on the cheeks for the shell, or the face of the shell. It does that does happen with the wear from the, basically the helmet being sitting on there and being pulled off, on and off and stuff. You can see it there, and you actually see it up here on the front of the hair on them too as well. Not a very big thing, especially if you got the helmet on all the time, but it still can wear. The shell, as you can see this right here is where it splits open. It just basically comes apart. And I'm doing this because of what's in here. And there's the back of the shell, and you pull out. Here's a little Starscream. And this is the other reason why for the shell. This is Starscream's little tail wings and guns for his robot form in his jet mode. There's no real storage space on the shell on its back for him or anything. It would be nice if you had like little peg holes down here or something that you can peg them in or something like that for them, or even if you could, like most figures I got now, have them where they kind of link together, and you can, the shell could hold him in one of his hands. But they didn't do that with this guy. But of course, you got to remember, this is from like the late 80s, so it happens. But you take the figure out, and you can just pop it. Which on the bottom of his feet, he does have these little tabs here, which helps to peg it, kind of lace it together. But you just click it together, and the shell's back together. And you can put the helmet back on. And we'll just set that aside for the moment. And we'll look at the figure itself. Which Starscream is just basically, in a way, he's a deformed version of his former self. In a way, he has to be, as you can see, he's a lot smaller. I want to bring back just the generations, Starscream, just for size comparison. You can see how much smaller he got compared. But you have to think of how you got to make the figure where it's small enough to fit into this guy. And of course, this is back in the 80s, so it has to have some kind of, downgrade to him. But figure-wise, he's not bad. I mean, he does look kind of short and kind of not really chubby, but just short-statured. For his weaponry, you got, of course, these two little guns. They just go right here into his hands, real easy, like so. Basically, these take the place of his little null rays that would be on the side of his arms, and of course, his wings can go on the back of his body here, still give him that G1 look. Which on this, before we get much further, the labels on this one went here. That's where the other logo went to. The Decepticon logo went right there. This one, his was still fine on, so I just left it there. These were actually on the back. The guy I bought them from actually somehow got them on the back of his legs instead of the front where they're supposed to go, and it didn't have none of the decals here on the wings at all. So I had to put those on there to make them look right. And there you go. His wings, basically, as you can see, these little clips. If you can see how these pegs are here, there's a small little line there in the clip where basically that's where it clips in and gives you kind of a centering point to get the wings on. And that's basically Starscream in his robot form. Like, nothing to him really. I mean, he doesn't have no feet articulation. He can't move his legs at all. His arms do go up, down, and have this bit here of movement. That's it. That's really it. Head, of course, nothing there either. Not for considering everything for this figure, it's not bad. I mean, it really wasn't bad. Granted, if you compare these guys to the original Pretenders, these guys took a serious hit. I mean, they're nothing compared to the originals. The originals were, I have to say, they're probably about the same as the deluxe size, but they had a lot more better articulation than these guys did. They didn't have the shoulder. They had the shoulder joint and had a lot of them had a little bit of knee articulation and stuff in the hip, but that was about it for them as well. But still, these guys took a little bit more of a hit. But why don't we take a spin on him on his jet mode to see how he looks like. To transform, of course, you take the guns out, and you want to go ahead and take the wings off as well. And nothing really to transforming this guy. All you do is you push right here, push his legs back together. Right here, you flip this up, flip his nose cone. His arms pretty much stay right where they are. You take each wing and you put them on the opposite way, because before you had them like this to show them off in robot mode. You just flip them around and you peg them on that way. The same on this side. You can see it does show the accent. The labels do show the wings a little bit better off for jet mode. The guns, they do go a certain way. One on each side here, and this little hole right here, they just peg in like so, and like so, and that's it. That's Starscream in his jet mode. It does look a little deformed for, still being his F-15 jet mode. No landing gear, nothing like that on him. But I mean, it's not terribly a horrible figure, but it's still not bad. I do kind of like it. The labels I think actually help it a lot more than what it did. A special note on this. The shell and the figure was the shell was never redone. This was the only time this shell was ever released. But the figure was actually re-released as a Kmart exclusive as a Legends figure. But it was just this part of the figure, just this Starscream. It was still the guns and the wings and everything, but it was just basically re-released as Transformers Legends Starscream as a Kmart exclusive. So this mold was used again. Other than that, that was it. This was basically it for Starscream. To my knowledge, also, again in the comic books, Starscream did become a pretender. Was a pretender in it. He was shown in a later story of the saga as Starscream, but he didn't use his shell. He basically put his shell away, which was actually a pretty good idea if you think about it. They were pretenders; they could hide in the shell, but as it is highly shown off in a lot of the comics, basically, if something happened to the shell, like if the shell was to take a big hit, let's say they're in a battle, Starscream's fighting over here, the shell's fighting over there. Starscream is still kind of controlling it. But if the shell took a major missile hit to the chest and went down, Starscream would feel it, and he'd actually feel the pain more so. So if he was in the air and the shell took a blast, Starscream would crash, more likely from the pain. But other than that, there's not a whole lot to say otherwise on the plastic, the Pretender Starscream. I really liked him. I've always been a fan of Starscream just for the way he was. But we're just going to go ahead and put him back in his shell, and I'm going to show you why. A little trick you can do with the guns to keep them all in there. But we'll just take the wings off here. We'll go ahead and take the guns off as well. And to put him in his shell, the arms have to get used. This joint here gets used. You flip them back to here. That's the only time you actually really use those points, unless you want to have him set up some way like that. But flip the arms back, and you also make sure the nose cone. Basically, he's in his robot form, so his legs are in, and his arms are in his back. And you just open the shell up. As I said, this is the best way I found to store these in here. You basically take them and set them in like so, basically right in front of the Starscream in his robot form, before you put Starscream in there. It does take sometimes it takes a little land-dangling to get them in there, which I'm actually going to do it this way, because you can do it this way as well. You can stick Starscream in there first, and then kind of stick the guns down in there as well, right underneath them. They kind of do make Starscream a little loose up under there, but it does store them in there. Then you just take the other half of the shell, of course, and close it right up. Well, I'm not pinging it right. There we go. And if you don't do it right, you can see as mine is doing, if you don't have them down in there like this a good way, they won't close right. Which, yeah. Sometimes you have to do a little wheel and dealing to get them in there, which I think I got them in now. Because see, if you can see in there, it's best to have it where the one wing's kind of sitting up in the shoulder, up down in there. I'm not sure how well that's coming across on camera, but you can see it's there. That's really the best way to get them in there. Again, you just close the shell up nice and tight. He's in there. Again, put the wings back here, these little holes here to peg them in. And just pegs right in both sides. And then you just put the helmet back on. And that's it. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot to G1 figurines, a lot of the G1 figures. But I mean, not classic wise, Pretender wise, I actually really like this guy. I mean, I like the color detail on his shell and everything, but it was actually pretty cool. He does have this one heck of a blaster too. But that's gonna be it for this video. Once again, I'll apologize for not doing the before and after on the repo labels on here. But I will post a link to repo labels below to if you want to go in there and get your own. If you have your own, you think you need to replace them, because that's one thing I have to admit about repo labels. You can go on there and you can find like any of the G1, or at least if not all of them, most of them on there of not only the G1 Autobots but the Decepticons, and get their like a reproduction of their original sheets to get on your figure. Because honestly, going there paying $5, maybe $10 for some to get this sheet and get it mailed to you, then having to trying to go online and trying to find the actual sheet, where you're probably going to spend 20, maybe $30 for the sheet. But yeah, that's going to be it. I mean, I will post a link again below to my Twitter, and I'll also post a link to my email if you want to email me and Twitter me. Also, please comment, like, and share on this video, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And before I sign out, let me once again remind you all to my channel, and this thing should hopefully go up before the end of this month. But at the end of the month, I am having a contest this month where I will be giving away a prize. Just look back to my original video on that. I will do an update on that as well, if I haven't already, when this one goes up. But this is going to be done about something. Thanks for watching, and I hope to hear from y'all soon.